Copious.
What up, perps? Kid Copious back in the bunker. Purple State Party. You know what we're doing here? We're repping America, the center, common sense, and poppers. There we go. Ran out of poppers today, man. I had some misfires. I had some misstarts. I used my own name. That's stupid, man. Anyhow, 4th of July is coming right up, so don't expect to see Miss Kitty over there much longer, because she's going to go ba-boom. So, title of the episode is 1-6 versus 6-1. Good job, kid. You got it. You spit it out. And, of course, you know, we're talking about the massive distraction effort that is the live televised January 6th trial. Yeah. Yeah, that's really important news. You know, why don't you just tell me what Biden had for breakfast? I mean, Jesus Christ, could I care any less? More on that later. Let's do some quick bullet points. I'm very uncomfortable. Americans are cutting back on their investments due to soaring inflation. Yeah, I wonder why. I mean, 8.5%, maybe even higher. Gas has doubled. You know, these politicians, man, I don't know if they've ever felt this kind of pain. I don't know. Most of them are rich. Most of them come from wealthy families. I don't think Gavin Newsom even understands what it does to the average person, the average family. You know? They just don't care. I mean, the consumer price index jumped 8.5%, you know? And that includes housing. You know, words just escape me on this one, because, you know, supposedly a whole bunch of people voted for Biden and a whole bunch of people voted for Newsom. And what are they getting? They're getting nothing. They're getting nothing in return. They're getting lip service from elite politicians who just, let them eat cake. Let them buy an electric vehicle. Let them buy margaritas. Take a kickboxing class. You know, go to the doctor and ask for free samples of baby formula. Like, there's just no seriousness here. You know, I just mentioned the baby formula. You know, Biden saying, oh, well, I wasn't briefed properly. Well, yeah, because your administration is working on your agenda. You don't give a shit about the problems that are facing us today. You're not working on solutions for what's actually affecting us today. Now, you've got your agenda. You've got your pronouns and your electric cars. And that seems to be the focus. And we're seeing the results of that. We're seeing these gigantic price increases. I mean, $6 for gasoline? Come on. This is ridiculous. I mean, Newsom will argue with me. Governor Newsom, that fucking piece of shit. What a poster child for elitist scumbag politicians. But anyhow, in San Francisco, where 85.3% voted Democrat, they recalled Chesa Boudin. And he comes out and blames his recall on right-wing billionaires. Really? You don't think it has anything to do with the fact that you're not charging people, you're decriminalizing everything? You talk about reform, but you don't actually do anything about reform. You know, one of the things, you know, that Bodine and Gascon and people like this, they like to talk about these reforms. So what they do is they completely under-sentence people who have already committed crimes, who have already been to prison in many cases. And you say, well, it's part of the reform, but there's no follow-up. There's no interdiction by the state. It's just ridiculous. Maybe talk more about this, because I've got some personal experiences with how it works. But let's move on. Keep it up here. Rick Caruso is leading Karen Bass. I like that. I like Caruso. Of course, you know, they try to smear him even in just the little article about the poll results where they say, you know, Representative Karen Bass and Rick Caruso, a wealthy developer who spends his own money. See, you got to put that out there. But at the same time, at least he's got a plan. Karen Bass is pulling the Biden plan, which is just hide out and say, I'm not Trump. Or in her case, she just says, I'm not the billionaire. Really? Okay, because, you know, supposedly you're all fine voting for people like Pelosi and Maxine Waters and Joe Biden and people like that. I just can't. Jackson County woman says she caught STD in car auto insurance to pay out $5.2 million. This is just a story. You should try to follow it. This lady claimed that she got an STD while having sex in a car with somebody. And some wackadoodle arbitration panel said that Geico needs to pay out, which I don't understand. As somebody who holds an insurance license, I don't really understand how a car insurance company is responsible for activities inside the car not involved with driving. I don't know what kind of rider you have on your policy, but mine doesn't include STDs. I don't know, man. This is crazy. I don't think it'll ever amount to anything, but it's just kind of a fun one. Do you know how I know Trump nor any other Republicans are on Maxwell's list? If they were, they would have been leaked months, if not years ago. And that's the world we live in now. We live in this world where the media, for the most part, is in the pockets of the politicians, and they will just cover up stories. They will not investigate. And, this is what we're left with. We're left with two people who are trafficking children, two rich and powerful people, and yet we don't know their names. But we know that Amber Heard pooped the bed. I don't, it's just some weird times we live in, man. But, yeah, it does kind of exonerate Trump. I mean, he can't be on that list. He can't be a client of Epstein and Maxwell because it would have already been leaked. Oh, here we go. AOC is getting all upset because she condemns politicians who refuse to adopt woke vernacular. I also have a mini rant about this because there's some politicians, including Democrat politicians, that rail against the term Latinx. Yeah, because they don't want a new term. You and your little liberal goons are trying to tell people of Hispanic origin, this is what we need to call you now because your language is problematic. And it's being rejected. And it's not being rejected just by politicians. It's being rejected by people on the streets. Just whatever. More liberal craziness. Again, this goes to what I was saying earlier. If you arrest people, you put them in the system now controls them, and you could direct them to get the help that they need. Or you could just let them go, like they do in Oregon. Overdoses rose over 700%. So if 100 people died before, 700 died this time. I'm not a mathematician or nothing, but I think that's pretty good. They spent $300 million, and only $40 million has actually been spent. And it's had an inverse effect. It has not led to more people seeking treatment, but to more drug-related deaths and the proliferation of hard drug use throughout communities in Oregon. Yeah, if you can't pronounce the word, just swerve around it, But this is so frustrating to me because I understand how drug addiction works. It's a monster. It seeks to control you. It's like an abusive partner who wants to just keep you in a little box, not talking to people, not interacting with people, so that they can control you. That's drugs. And the only way to win against drugs is to break its hold. That's it. And the only way to really break its hold is to sometimes force it upon people. Look, after they've had their rehab, it's on that individual to turn their life around. But that individual, I know, okay, from personal experience, from going through it multiple times, until the drug's hold is broken, there's not much you can do. Okay, there's just not much you can do. Drugs, addiction, the mental, the physical side of it, it's too much to overcome without medical intervention. Okay, I lost a friend who tried to quit drinking cold turkey. He had DTs and he died. Right now, I have a brother-in-law who's lost his mind pretty much to alcohol. And there's not much we can do. The police won't get involved. He's abusive towards his mom, who he lives with. And unless he beats the shit out of her and she presses charges, the state can't do anything. And she's not going to press charges because she's in a codependent relationship. So, these kinds of things, these decriminalizations of drugs sound cool, but in reality, it's a death sentence. Biden says there's nothing he can do to bring down gas or food prices. Biden looks powerless as crisis crests around him. This is coming from CNN. We don't have leadership right now. Politics is a for-profit job. And that's one of the things we need to change. I mean, I don't mind that people serve the public good and, get wealthy or have good retirement packages, teachers, firefighters, police officers, even politicians, nurses, first responders of all types, but they're just elitists. They're just elitists. And right now, they want to lie and convince you to vote for them. Instead of earning the vote, they want to convince you to vote. It's a con game. And I think the Democrats do it worse because they make higher level promises. For me, it's difficult to say because I live in the democratically controlled California. So all I see is elitist politicians who give in to lobbyists, make lots of money, and don't give a fuck about the regular person. Here's another one where these are the kind of policies this is what these policies will get you. Washington State has to pay a guy $250 a day because they couldn't get him into a mental facility because he was deemed incompetent to stand trial for attacking a woman. That's where we're at now. We can't lock him up in a loony bin, so we're going to pay him $250 a day. So he's going to get rich, essentially, off of, he's going to make money off of attacking a woman. That's really going to lead us good places. Armed abortion activist arrested after arriving in Maryland to kill Justice Kavanaugh. Okay, I've said it many times, okay? I'm pro-choice, all right? But I do not understand this connection where you are so fervently pro-abortion that you will kill people over it. That's how much you want to kill babies. I understand. See, from my side, I'm looking at it as freedom for women, okay? Freedom for women, medically necessary. Those are my views on it. I don't know where these crazies get this level that they're going to try to kill a Supreme Court justice. But of course, Schumer, as we're sitting here in the middle of televised January 6th coverage, Schumer says things like, you won't know what hit you if you go forward with these awful decisions. You will pay the price. You will pay the price. Okay, now if you say that to a politician, you might mean, you're going to get voted out of office. Kavanaugh is not an elected official. So when you say you will pay the price, all I can think of is murder. Meanwhile, we're going to have all of these hearings on January 6th, but this kind of shit is allowed to fly. This is not about a partisan viewpoint. This is about the overall picture of America. We cannot survive if we are going to have propaganda instead of news agencies. News agencies were supposed to be parts of the checks and balances. They are no longer parts of the checks and balances. They are culpable in the propaganda game. Propaganda is not something to be taken lightly. So, somewhere on here. Anyhow, so Biden went on Jimmy Kimmel, and that was just an absolute shitstorm. But that's actually slated for later. So we're going to move on really quickly. I found this one really interesting that when you look at it, Biden claims that his agenda has spurred job growth, but we've actually created fewer jobs in 2021 than we were projected to if his stimulus legislation hadn't passed at all. So he spent all that money, drove up inflation, and we get nothing out of it. That's good. That's good. Alleged California gang member pushes for plea deal ahead of potential DA Gascon recall. These criminals, this guy is charged with attempting to murder a couple people and killing somebody during a home invasion. And he wants to get a plea deal. These people these criminals seriously side with this guy. They like this guy. There's even talk that some of them are getting his name tattooed. I don't know if that's hyperbole, but If you're a violent criminal in Los Angeles right now, your biggest ally is not your defense lawyer. It's not the judge, it's not the jury, it's George Gascon. And that is one of George Gascon's employees. LA County Deputy District Attorney Eric Seidel. Yeah. There you go. I'm going to skip that. President Biden's approval rating among Americans hit an all-time low. Yeah, 58%. That didn't take long, did it? A little more, about a year and a half, I guess. Something like that. Look at that. Overall approval, 33%. 22% with young adults, 24% with Hispanics. If you're asking yourself why their agenda seems to be trans, black, and electric vehicles, that's because those are the only three groups that are still believing in this guy. Well, guy, that's just what it is. So, to cover it up, what do? We're going to have televised coverage. We're going to harp on January 6th. People are no longer buying the "but Trump" excuse. So, to, cover all of these mistakes, the Afghan inflation, baby formula, high cost of living, high fuel prices, you name it, all the shit that's going wrong because nothing's going right. Look over there, January 6th. Lights, camera, action, propaganda. So we're going to have the historic hearings. I don't know what makes them historic. Historically biggest waste of time ever? Look, I mean, I said it last week. If people need to be punished, punish them. That's fine. But again, where is all the chit-chat about the riots? The riots over a man who died in an accident while resisting arrest. Okay? That's what it was. All right? You burn cities down. Now, I want to ask the average American, what do you think terrified the average American more? The January 6th or the summer of riots? Because anybody who says January 6th has to be somebody who actually works in the Capitol or could have actually been affected by it. But the riots were everywhere, and they were spreading like wildfire. So January 6th, right? Biggest thing ever, of course. So Jack Del Rio, who's an offensive coordinator for the Washington Commanders, got fined $100,000 because of what he said. And what he said was quite simple. People's livelihoods are being destroyed. Businesses are being burned down. No problem. And then we have a dust up at the Capitol. Nothing burned down, and we're going to make that a major deal. Well, dust up at the Capitol, that's not the right vernacular. No. Worst event ever in American history. So the Washington Commanders released a thing. What happened at the Capitol was an act of domestic terrorism. A group of citizens attempted to overturn the results of a free and fair election, and as a result, lives were lost, and the Capitol building was damaged. Oh, I want to make it clear that our organization will not tolerate any equivalence between those who demanded justice in the wake of George Floyd's murder and the actions of those on January 6th who sought to topple the government. Really? Okay. So first of all, you really think that I was supposed to topple the government? Or do you think it was people who got out of hand? I mean, again, you burn down cities and they label it peaceful protests. They say they're fighting for justice. The murder of George Floyd? Give me a break. If you're buying that, man, you've got issues. See a doctor. All right? It was tragic what happened to him. Maybe shouldn't have. I mean, again, you could simply say if he had just accepted his arrest, he wouldn't have been laid down on the pavement. All right? This isn't about hate. This isn't about denying. This is just the facts that are there and saying, look, this is the way it could have gone differently. But topple the government. You see? And they're going to fine him because he calls it a dust-up. Wow. With all the problems that are going on in this world, we're going to focus in on not giving the Capitol riots enough, of their place in history. Oh, Jesus. People like AOC had said, the whole point of protesting is to make people uncomfortable. Oh, activists take that discomfort with the status quo and advocate for concrete policy change. Popular support often starts small and grows. To folks who complain protest demands make others uncomfortable, that's the point. Okay, so they made the people in the Capitol uncomfortable, all right? They didn't buy the results. Look, you got people out there trying to kill justices over abortion issues. You got people who are having very extreme reactions to things. It's going to happen. Okay, it's hard. It's still to this day very hard to believe that Biden actually won. So after AOC, I wanted to see what others said. And of course, Tulsi Gabbard, I checked in with her. The so-called January 6th hearings are nothing more than a show trial to try to distract our attention away from the serious issues that face our country. From open borders, inflation, out-of-control crime, and the very real threat of nuclear war. Yeah, Biden has made such a mess that they have to cover it up. Pure and simple. And what do? Here's some bomb-throwing rioters, okay? They were videotaped handing out Molotov cocktails and such to other people. And one of them, Rahman here, said the only way they hear us is through violence. So he's calling for violence. They burned police cars. They threw Molotov cocktails. And now they're getting 18 to 24 months. I think people were more afraid of that than they were of the Capitol riots. But fine, be soft on them. That's just great. You know, and the person who wrote this article really brings up a good point. Merrick Garland is right to make examples of those who rioted at the Capitol. Right? If they really were right-wing extremists, they deserve to be punished. You know? Riots and violence originating on the political right should be met with a firm hand. But he and the big city progressive prosecutors have badly undermined the public legitimacy of these prosecutions by refusing to take the same approach to their own aside. That's all we're trying to say. And it's hot already. So, again, like I said earlier, this is not about hate. This is not about denying, okay? This is about trying to look at a group of facts and coming up with a common sense approach. Like I say, I'm trying to stand for the center in common sense. Electric vehicles are a horrible idea. Pure and simple. So let's look at this little article here. This is from Fox Business, so, anybody who doesn't buy into Fox is, whatever. Okay. I rented an electric car for a 4-day road trip. I spent more time charging it than I did sleeping. Okay. So they spent $175 on charging. If they had done that in gas, it would have cost $100 more. But that $100 savings cost us many hours in waiting time. All right. So to save power, as they're driving, I'm just going to condense this. They were starting to get some low batteries. Low battery alert. To save power, they turned off the cooling system, the radio, unplugged their phones, lowered the windshield wipers to the lowest possible setting. And 3 miles from the station, they had 1 mile of estimated range. And they made it, but it brings up the point. What is AAA going to do for you? Because you run out of gas, somebody just pours more gas in your car and you drive off. You could have that done in a few minutes. But what are they going to do for a dead electric car battery? They can't charge it. They can't jump it. They're going to have to tow it. Yeah, tow it. So they tried to put the cruise control on, but the wind and rain would not allow it. So they had to drive through the rain themselves. So, again, you pay for this feature that's not always going to work. And they started off with a 100-mile cushion between Chicago and their first stop, and it fell to 30 because of the weather conditions. Again, lovely. Searching PlugShare because you can't just simply go to a gas station and fill up. You got to look around and find these plugs. So their trip, or that leg of the trip, took 11 hours instead of roughly 5 to 6 hours because they had to wait to charge. See how this is going? They made it to Chicago at 9 p.m., having made the planned 7.5-hour trip in 12 hours. You see what we're looking at here? All of that charging time. See, that's what's not feasible. You can't afford to lose a couple of hours because you're charging up your car. These things are fraught with just absolute negatives. I don't know about you, but I can't afford to have like a nice diesel generator to power my house. I can't afford to get the solar panels put on. So my only backup in the event of a blackout, which here in California is probably going to become more and more, of a thing. Happens every now and then with the wind. But, the last time we did have a blackout, I used my gasoline-powered car as a generator to keep phones and things like that charged. And when it got cold, we could at least get in there and turn on the heater. Or when it gets hot, you could get in there and turn on the AC. But you can't do that with an electric vehicle. You can't, because you're missing the component that you need to run it, electricity. You drain your car battery, you always get a jump start. You drain your electric vehicle battery, and you're just assed out. It's a bad idea. And again, we're doing it all in the name of man-made climate change. But then you read something like this. The EU is going to exempt private and corporate jets from green aviation fuel tax. So rich people don't have to pay for their expensive fuel. They don't have to pay an extra tax on top of that super polluting fuel that they use. So how am I supposed to believe it's real? If it was such a crisis, if it was such a world ender, don't you think that like they would try to reduce the use of jets since they burn a lot more fuel? I don't know. Anyhow, so we were talking about the Biden Kimmel thing. Biden said there'd be a revolution if a Supreme Court decision didn't go his way, and that his political opponent should be sent to jail. Now, I understand his context, but both of those statements are impeachable. That's exactly what the leftists tried to claim Trump was. See? He went on there. Not sure if I was more embarrassed for Kimmel or Biden last night. He went on there and he rambled about when was the last time you saw biracial couples on TV. Yeah, because he's so fucking old, he remembers when you would never put a biracial couple on TV. In fact, he advocated for it. I mean, he's the one who said, integration at schools would turn the schools into jungles. So, But, he's worried about the woke policies more than the crumbling families and the crumbling economy. He also went on and Kimmel said, hey, how come you don't just do what Trump did and sign executive orders? And Biden's like, I don't want to be that dictator. Oh, I'm not going to use executive orders. Let's look at some facts on this. So Trump in 4 years had 220 executive orders. Biden, 212 in a year and a half. He can't even tell that. It's one thing to lie about things that aren't provable, but to lie about things that are easily provable, hey, look, man, you do you, I guess. What was the other thing that I wanted to bring up about him? I don't know. It gets lost in the shuffle sometimes. Where is it? No, not there, not there, not there, not there. Yeah. See, he says, I often get asked, look, the Republicans don't play it square. Why do you play it square? Well, guess what? If we do the same thing they do, our democracy would literally be in jeopardy. Seriously? Seriously? Your side concocted the Russian collusion story, and you're saying that you play fair? Really? You sent your DOJ after parents who are expressing concern about critical race theory? Really? Like, you play fair. All right. Sure, buddy. You play fair. Uh-huh. Yeah. Oh, God. This is the worst administration ever. This is the worst America has ever looked. Build Back Better? Holy shit, dude. You are just destroying it. Tried to do the Ministry of Truth and tried to say that the Ministry of Truth or the Disinformation Board was only going to focus on foreign intelligence or foreign operatives. But then you have stuff where they are Leaked documents are showing that their concerns were about COVID and masks. What? How are COVID and masks not a domestic issue? They were going to create a private partnership with Twitter to target disinformation on the site. Right. Okay. Yeah. So Mayorkas meeting with 2 top social media executives as an opportunity for Twitter to become involved with the disinformation governance board's analytical exchanges. So they could offer data to Twitter that would better allow the company to target content for removal. I mean, they're flat out just admitting it at this point, that they are trying to censor everything. They do not want an uprising because they know it's coming. They know it's coming. Statements like this: Biden thinks Americans are financially comfortable. Newsom thinks California is a model for the nation. Are you fucking kidding me? The only good thing about California is the weather, and Gavin has no say over that. I mean, we knew we were going to have blackouts this summer. Okay? No AC. I'm not going to have AC. I'm going to be working out in the sun, and I'm not going to have AC when I come home because this fucking jackass is not doing anything to create power because the lobbyists block it. Because the lobbyists have money. They're going to have their AC. Trust me. Okay? They're going to have their AC. I'm not. Is he doing anything about water? No. The lobbyists, again. Biden thinks we're financially comfortable? Really? I mean, these two guys are such clowns. Newsom could remove the 51 cents a gallon tax that California levies here. Biden can remove the federal gas tax. That's another something like 13 cents. All right? It's not a lot, but it all adds up. 60 cents here, 60 cents there. It adds up. But at the very least, it shows that you actually care. That you actually give a shit. Or you could just do nothing. I just heard something. So let's move into some of my favorites of the week because, this has just been... What gets me worked up is that everybody in this information golden age, everybody should have facts. Everybody should understand what's going on here. And I think they do, but they don't do anything about it because they're so embedded with their team. And that's the most frustrating part because that's been the plan all along. The plan all along was to make us so far left and so far right that we can't come together to hold these politicians accountable, to start voting some of these vampires out of office. But anyhow, Colin Kaepernick transitions in order to make Carolina Panthers cheer squad. I hate this guy. I'll tell you why I hate this guy. All right? The kneeling during the national anthem, now, okay, but I kind of sided with the whole idea of you don't make your company or your product look bad. And, a company or a product has the right to say, you are not delivering the message that we want. Fine. Why I really hate him is because he makes a movie where he compares the NFL to slavery and then wants to come back to the NFL. The only slave to ever be freed and return to slavery, Colin Kaepernick. This guy is a fucking idiot. His heart might be in the right place, but his brain, scrambled eggs. All right? He's an idiot. All right? He could have done things in a more responsible way. He could have seen that his actions were not drawing the kind of attention that he needed to be drawing to the problem. But no. No, the NFL is slavery. So he goes out there and he says slavery is like earning hundreds of thousands of dollars to play a game of football. Millions of dollars over the course of a season. Endorsement deals, all of that. All those rich slaves we had here in America. And in South America and all over the world. Those rich slaves. I mean, they must be because slavery and the NFL are the same. Emperor Palpatine builds a bigger, even more powerful Death Star equipped with a 9mm. Yeah, that's just stupid. But since we're on Star Wars, I saw Star Wars in the theaters when it first came out as a little kid. I have grown increasingly frustrated with the series as George Lucas tinkers with things. Han Solo shot first. We all fucking know that. But I thought, well, I'm gonna try this Obi-Wan show that they've got on whatever it is, Disney Plus. I hate Disney. I'm long before Disney's troubles in Florida. You've heard me rail about them. But anyhow, it was everything that I thought it was going to be. It was just a regurgitated script with Star Wars people inserted. Prince Andrew's... That is a massive brain blow out there. Prince Andrew's COVID-19 reveals it was actually only 14 at the time. Man buying pack of gum, ask cashier to be patient as he moves some money around. Yeah, it's getting that way, isn't it? I mean, yeah. Tesla employees' cars will now drive them to work against their will. You know, I understood when people were working from home in the heights of the pandemic. But poppycock now, man. I mean, look, if you don't think you can handle a work environment because of COVID, then quit. Find work at home. But if your boss tells you to go back to work, go back to work. I'm sick of this shit, man. I'm sick of being out there Monday through Friday, working in the sun, dealing with all the shit that I deal with, going into buildings, contacting people. You know, I've just had to run through all the bullets. And then these people are like, you ain't go back. Oh, man. You wonder why we're in trouble. So this wasn't my favorite, but this is where we're going to end it. Kind of a sad week, I guess, for political cartoons and memes and things like that. Not a lot going on, I guess. I mean, it's just, we're just still falling off a cliff. And January 6th, the historic televised trial of, you know, oh man. If you are one of those people watching it because you think it's an important event in American history, you know, maybe you should read a history book. But anyhow, Biden's social media team costs almost $7 million a year to take his incoherent ramblings and try to stabilize him somewhat, and to put out lies, and to put out fake platitudes. Oh, this year's new 4th of July costs 16 cents less. You remember that one? Yeah. And what are we getting for that $7 million? Are we getting distracted husband memes? No. Are we getting Jim from the office? No, we're not getting that. We're not getting that kind of wisdom, I guess. Are we getting boy with butterfly memes? Refreshing Twitter every 2 minutes. Oh God. What about the classic right here, huh? I can make minute rice in 59 seconds. What about you? Getting those? No. $7 million. We're still not getting any of that. Are we getting any Bronco cartoons? Of course not. I don't think Biden's Twitter or social media accounts are going to be reposting this one. Maybe we're not getting Babylon Bee either. Woman suddenly realizes she needs all the stuff Maria Kondo told her to throw out 6 months ago. We're not getting those. Are we getting Nancy Momo land? No, we're just getting lies. We're getting very cute little Scottish Highland cows. No. Oh. We need more of those. No, we're not getting anything. Much like our president. We're not getting what we need. We're not even getting what he promised. And the only thing so far that I've seen that he has delivered on, for good or bad, is dismantling everything Trump did. A lot of that, I think, went poorly. Some people got their college loans forgiven. Yay, bravo for them. The rest of us are still screwed. You know, nobody's helping me with my debts. There's no plan for that. I'm not in debt enough to even qualify for these plans, but it still fucked me over. It's still enough that my credit score is in the fucking toilet. Nobody's helping me there. And what about unity? What about unity? None. I think we're further apart now than we were under Trump. I really do. Because they're painting us, people in the center, and people that are more to the right, they're painting us as domestic terrorists. They're painting us as racist. So how are we ever going to find common ground? That's what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to find that common ground. I'm trying to take the good ideas, the compassionate ideas, and mix them with a little bit of reality. Yes, we need to help people of the world, but we need to help ourselves first. See, it's simple. Yes, we need criminal reform, but we need to address the mental illness and the drug addiction. So we need to detain these people. We need to put them in the system, and the system needs to direct them through getting clean, sober, back on their medication, and then help them if they want the help. But if they don't want the help, arrest them again. And before you give out lenient sentences, because kids' brains aren't fully mature, before you do that, let's just make sure that this person hasn't already committed a bunch of crimes, like the trans rapist that we had here in California, or the guy who just ran over the woman in the baby stroller. You know, they let him off. Okay, that made sense at first, but then you find out that he drugged a girl who ended up in the hospital. That's already 2 strikes. And speaking of strikes, he's not even going to get a strike for running her down. In a couple of years, it'll all be forgotten. And that's part of the problem we're seeing here. One side is just pushing the other side so far that we're never going to find the middle. And if we don't find the middle, they are going to continue to act the way they do, like a bunch of elitists. It's time. It's time for a revolution. It doesn't have to be violent, but we need a revolution. We need to take back common sense in America. We have to. We owe it to every generation. Peace, y'all. Copious out.